Hi everyone, my name's Sandra MacDougall and I'm with Red Deer Polytechnic. I wish that I could be there in person. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge my co-authors, Michal, Richard, Jiří, and Esther. So this study was a spatiotemporal analysis of ungulate-vehicle collision hotspots, specifically in response to a change in the road, so road construction or realignment with mitigation. Over the past 15 years, we've seen wildlife vehicle collision collection and analysis systems develop rapidly and at large scale suitable for transportation agencies. Despite these advances, though, their integration into transportation policy is often impacted by their short-term and geographically limited nature. Now, different programs use different analytical techniques, such as GETIS-ORD or KDE+, to identify wildlife vehicle collision hotspots. In reality, the most appropriate tool may vary depending on the management objective. Now, one analytical program that you may not yet be familiar with is known as STKDE+, or Spatial Temporal Kernel Density Estimation Plus. It actually stems from the KDE+ method, which we first heard about back in 2013. Now, KDE+ determines locations or parts of lines between intersections with a statistically significant concentration of points, so collisions or traffic crashes. We call these non-random locations hotspots. What STKDE method does is it extends the KDE+ framework by including a temporal dimension through a moving window approach. In other words, it allows users to observe the temporal evolution of hotspots. One would predict that hotspots may be stable over space and time, or they may emerge and disappear and reemerge, or they may change in response to human development or wildlife mitigation measures, wildlife population dynamics, or changes to the road alignment. So our objective then was to evaluate the evolution of ungulate vehicle collision hotspots in response to two major road projects in Alberta, Canada. And our approach was novel in that we tested the paired use of a clustering method, KDE+, and that STKDE+, to monitor these hotspots. So specifically, we took our data and we normalized it to road mortality rates. We used police collision data from 2000 to 2018, and we supplemented that with animal carcass data where it was available at similar reporting rates from 2019 to 2021. We applied both KDE+ and STKDE+ to that data. But I should note here that for police collision data, we used a buffer of plus or minus 500 meters for each location, just to be on the conservative side. Now, for each highway project, we applied either a before, after, or a control impact analysis, depending on what was appropriate for the site. And we'd chosen these sites because we were able to control for traffic volume and ungulate population trends. We then did a Shapiro-Wilk test for normality. And if the data was normally distributed, then we did an independent samples t-test to compare either before, after, or control impact conditions. Further, we then calculated the effect size on UVC frequency of each mitigation measure or road realignment. And we used a standardized Hedges G for that. And the calculations or the equations can be seen here to the right of your screen. So our two study areas were located in the western part of Canada within the province of Alberta, one towards the northern part of the province and one directly below the city of Calgary. Now, in the interest of time, I'm actually going to focus on Highway 2, the study area that was in the southern part of the province. Now, this particular study area was comprised of two different freeways that were connected at their south end. One, McLeod Trail on the left and Deerfoot on the right. Now, McLeod Trail was the original major transportation route into the city of Calgary. But a new section of Deerfoot Trail, indicated on the right here, opened in December of 2003 as part of a major highway project. The Deerfoot Trail extension included the construction of 4.5 kilometers of wildlife fencing, shown here in gray, and also two underpass opportunities here, one at the river bridge, and another specific underpass along the south end of the valley. Both highways pass through parkland habitat with a mixture of urban and acreage development. And there's also a 27-hole golf course in between each trail as well. White-tailed deer and mule deer are common, and moose have been undergoing a range expansion into the area over the past 20 years, and there are also occasional sightings of elk. Okay, so let's look at our results. KDE Plus and STKDE Plus identified 4 UVC hotspots within the study area. The first, located here at A, showed a strong and temporally stable hotspot on the original highway. The STKDE graph for A is right here. After Deerfoot Trail opened in 2003, another hotspot developed at the south end of the fence, but not at the north end. And so that south is here, and it has persisted through time as well. And 2 ephemeral hotspots were also detected, one in proximity to an access gate, and another that was in proximity to the underpass on the south side of the river. So we found sort of 3 key results on this in this particular study area. First of all, there were significantly lower UVC rates on the new mitigated highway in comparison with a large effect size in comparison to the original unmitigated highway. And that was significant even when we included UVCs that were occurring within 500 meters of the fence ends. Interestingly, on the original highway, when traffic moved from an average of 32,600 vehicles a day down to nearly 20,000 vehicles per day, that had no significant effect on the ungulate-vehicle collision rate. And the third thing I wanted to share that was interesting is, as you can see looking at the bottom graph here, this line indicates traffic, and we saw year-over-year increases in traffic volume on Deerfoot Trail. As traffic volumes became extremely high, the frequency of ungulate vehicle collisions became higher on the weekends versus the weekdays. Whereas on McLeod Trail, that frequency was the same on weekdays or weekends, regardless. So overall, when we looked at both study areas and we evaluated the information that using both KDE Plus and STKDE Plus had provided, we found that they provide separate but very complementary views of UVC hotspots. KDE Plus can provide a variety of outputs for the user depending on their study objective, and those can then readily fit into a broader decision matrix that includes really important ecological considerations, because direct road mortality is only one small piece of the information needed for any particular site. Now, STKDE Plus, one thing that I didn't mention earlier is it allows the user to select your desired moving window for analysis. So I used 3 years as the moving window, but you could up that to 5 years, which also may be more appropriate depending on the type of question you're trying to ask. Both analytical tools can easily be incorporated into dashboard-based reporting systems, and they can both be applied at a variety of scales. As specific to the case study that I shared with you, I found that wildlife mitigation fencing with crossing opportunities contributed overall to an 84% difference in UVC rates between a comparable unmitigated highway. However, the net benefits of the mitigation measures to reduce ungulate mortality were impacted by a fence end effect, but also at a larger scale by proximity to an unmitigated high traffic use highway. So in other words, wildlife are successfully crossing the freeway using the underpasses, only to reach a strong barrier when they hit the next highway. So with that, I would like to just say thank you very much and acknowledge the Transport Research Center and thank them for hosting me just prior to the pandemic, and the sabbatical support that I received from Red Deer Polytechnic. Thanks very much for your time.
Are there any questions from the audience? No, doesn't seem so. Then I have a question. What's the difference between moose and elk? Because I thought moose is in Europe and elk is in in North America. I was not aware that both of them are living in Canada, or am I wrong?
We have both of them. So yeah, moose, Alsace, and elk. I've forgotten their Latin name off the top of my head, but yeah, we have both, plus mule deer, plus white-tailed deer,
so they
plus
are
caribou.
two different species in
Yes, very
looking
different.
quite similar. Okay. Red? Reindeer. Okay. So, is there any question from the chat?
No question in the chat. We have a small online
Community. Yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Sandra. Then we
Thank
move